Welcome. I'd like to call the June Capital Program Committee to order. The call for order is basically directed at me and the two guys next to me. Do we have members of the public who would like to provide comments?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. We have a total of 8 members making public comments today. We
Okay.
have 4 in person and 4 remote.
Let's hear from our members of the public.
As a reminder, we ask that all public speakers adhere to the MTA's rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, we limit everyone to 2 minutes. Please be aware that there will be a warning beep to remind you that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker will be Murray Bowden. Following Mr. Bowden will be Jason Anthony.
Hi, Jenna. Sometimes we get so involved in doing things the old way, we forget about the little things. On page 76, you talk about 257 diesel express buses. Always had them, right? I company up in Canada. But there's luggage racks underneath, and nobody in a commuter brings luggage, which means the buses are higher, they load slower, they weigh more because you got to do it. Nobody ever bothered saying, why don't we just use low-floor buses for commuter buses? 10% more fuel, 10% more this, that, and everything else. Nobody ever asked the question. Time to ask that question. They're commuter buses, not long-distance buses. The other thing is, I know you got to buy diesel buses. Can't change everything to electric all at once. But Volvo is taking the diesel engines. When they need to be repaired, they're installing hydrogen engines in the same bus. So you extend the life of the bus without putting another diesel engine in it. It's being done now on the Volvo buses. Why can't we do it here? The bus chassis that you have will last another 20, 30 years. You can extend their life, but you can do it with hydrogen and stop using fossil fuels. It's good to see you all, and any mistakes I make, please correct me. I have early dementia, and I don't catch my own mistakes, so please tell me when I make a mistake. Good to see you all.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jason Anthony.
Hi, y'all. Jason Anthony from Amazon Labor Union. It's always to be back on the Monday, on the week after my 36th birthday, traveling to Phoenix, Arizona and Chicago, discovering 2 different transit systems. All right, let's talk about the R211s, shall we? It is time to see them in our system because I don't want to see anymore the R46 that are older. I mean older than my own self, than 36. And the R46 are way older than my own self. That we see all the time that, for example, on the A, if we go, let's say, to Far Walkaway, and the exterior destination sign could say to Inwood, that's an epic fail. Or if the exterior destination sign says to Far Walkaway or to Inwood, could say the opposite direction. We need newer cars with cleaner interior. Obviously, we need newer buses. Staten Island should get newer buses like the Castleton Bus Depot, because the Forgotten Borough is always excluded, like the roads like the S40 and S90. the buses that I take always to work. So let's get to work and let's do something better. I'll see you guys in finance.
Thank you. Our next speaker is remote Tyler Babb. Following Tyler Babb will be Andy Polak.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler. I'm a recent college graduate that's currently working on a personal design project. And I just had some general questions that I wanted to know about technology and the rider experience for MTA customers. So just in general, are there any big customer issues that you guys are currently working on solving with different things like displays in train stations and buses? And do you have a future vision for how amenities like that can improve rider experiences? If there's also a better person I could reach out to contact just to get responses for that, I'd definitely love to hear, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Andy Polak.
Okay, I'm figuring out the technical difficulties right now. Okay, there we go. All right, let's start the 2 minutes now. Hi, Chair Lieber. Hi, members of the CPOC committee. So let's talk about the R211s. I am very happy that we are getting a presentation on them today. It's been long overdue that we're finally going to see new and exciting train cars that will basically make us feel like we are in the 21st century. This has been something that I've been looking forward to for a while, especially when I read the CPOC committee book yesterday. I was amazed with how things are going over there in Lincoln, Nebraska, where they're being manufactured right now. So hopefully we're going to get more details during Chair Lieber's presentation this afternoon. The second point I did bring up when I submitted comment, for the registration, I also noticed in the committee book that Metro North is getting brand new diesel equipment, but the Long Island Railroad, they're due for new diesel equipment because the locomotives that we currently have date back all the way to 1999, which were, of course, done by the old George Pataki administration. So when is the Long Island Railroad going to finally have new diesel equipment on the Greenpoint, Montauk, and the Oyster Bay line? Because I feel that's long overdue as well. So that's all I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to speak at the full board on Wednesday. So if I don't speak to anybody else, have a good, safe 4th of July.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is in person, Bruce Hahn, and following Mr. Hahn is Kara Girl.
But I think you ought to hear all of it. Also, as long as I forgot to put it in the notes here.
May I ask you to speak in the mic, Mr. Hahn?
Sure, sure. It's Hain, Hain. I have some difficulty understanding what's going to happen at Jamaica. And I don't think it's too much to ask that you publish something, because I've given a lot of thought and studied it quite a bit. And I just don't think there's any possibility we'll be on the same page. I mean, these things just keep going on. 20 years ago, it was the vomitoriums at Herald Interlocking. And, they say, oh, we've done a grade separation job at Herald Interlocking. We fixed it all up. Well, you blocked it off. You reduced the throughput of Herald Interlocking by half with that garbage. I went by one of them going in the wrong direction.
and going out the inbound lanes. And I went by it. That's 3% there. There's not enough room to have those things there. By normal standards, I mean, it's more of a subway anyway. You know what I mean? There's problems, and it goes on like that. You have this disgrace of a terminal at Belmont Raceway and at the stadium, and nobody wants to use it. Well, I don't think anybody wants to walk from the station there, Elmont, and you had to jack it up and stuff. The tracks at Jamaica, it is a doltish
Please wrap up your comments.
simplification, and it reduces the capacity. To say that increases the capacity, that's a lie. It's preposterous. It used to have 3 through tracks through there. Something's got to be done about this. They can't go any farther.
Mr. Haynes, please wrap up your comments.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kara Girl.
Good afternoon. I'm Kara Girl, Research and Communications Associate at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA PCAC. Thank you for coming to an agreement on the ADA civil rights lawsuit with disability and accessibility advocates. Years in the making, this settlement represents the MTA's commitment to building a transit system that works for all New Yorkers, including those with disabilities, the elderly, people with strollers or luggage, or otherwise limited mobility. We thank the many advocates who helped make this vision a reality, including the late New York City Transit Riders Council member and disability rights advocate Edith Prentice, who worked tirelessly for a more accessible transit system. This commitment to making 95% of subway stations accessible with an elevator or ramp by 2055 will help advocates hold the MTA accountable while also laying out a timeline and plan for full accessibility. We hope to see advocates and disabled riders engaged at every step of the process to ensure that stations are prioritized in an equitable way. It's also important that we don't let local disagreements further delay improvements, as in the case of the 68th Street Hunter College elevator currently under construction. With just 27% of subway stations currently accessible, this is an ambitious goal, even with a 33-year timeline. But we're confident that with sufficient funding, resources, and coordination, the MTA can make an accessible transit system a reality for riders. We hope that over the coming months, years, and decades, the MTA can find ways to speed up the timeline and cut down on costs to bring these crucial improvements to riders even sooner. We'll continue to fight for the funding necessary to make our subway fully accessible without delay, including the annual $15 billion that congestion pricing will bring in when it's finally implemented. Zoning for accessibility will also help make this commitment a reality by working with private developers to fund and build accessibility improvements, and it should be taken advantage of across the city to further speed up this goal. Riders with disabilities or limited mobility are depending on the MTA to make a fully accessible subway a reality. Last week, you showed riders that you're serious about this commitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our last 2 speakers are remote. The first is Alita Dupree, following Frank Hardaway.
Thank you again, Chair Jano Lieber. Alita Dupree for the record. My pronouns are she and her. It's good to be back. Capital is important. I haven't heard anything about the Central Branch electrification. That's very important. It's something you don't think about much, but that 7 miles of electrification can make a difference in a lot of ways. So we need to start working on that. It was in the capital plan. We're getting our finances back. And how do we continue to work on electrification of the rest of the system? Your calls about Port Jefferson, which is a line that I used to live on years ago, and Oyster Bay. It takes time, but I believe that as I sit here in my solar-powered all-electric home, broadcasting to you, that we can scale this up to make our great and legendary system all-electric someday, and it will take on different forms. And I am encouraged about the ADA settlement, but that should not stop there. Law is often about minimums, but it shouldn't take 33 years. I think someday we can get to 50 stations per year. It's going to be a lot of money to do that, but it's hard climbing up out of the deep subway station. So we have this in place, but it must not stop simply with the settlement. And Omni is a part of capital work. I use it on the subway, but I still have yet to see what the equipment is going to look like on 67 tracks in Grand Central Terminal and 21 tracks in Penn Station, which is shared by 3 railroads. So I look forward to hearing what you have to say about capital. And thank you very much. It's good to be back. Hope to be in person.
Thank you. Our final speaker, Frank Hardaway.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hey, welcome everybody. My topic is about the Interborough Rapid Transit. I'm excited about the project. Is being discussed, being studied. But I vote upon the commuter rail should take that online, share with the freight line. Because my vision and my study is it should be both Long Island Railroad and Metro North should have the line instead of a bus rapid transit and some monorail. You can have above. But I look at the video presentation. I look at it. I say, nah. I'd rather not. But reason why I picked commuter rail instead of the other two, because I look for not only to serve Brooklyn and Queens, I'm looking towards going all the way up into the Bronx. I understand that Metro North gonna do the east side of the Bronx, serving Hunts Point and Parkchester, Morris Park and Co-op City, all the way to Rochelle. Because my ideal optimism about the Metro North should go all the way into Queens down to Brooklyn is a good optimistic idea. Because I'm studying a lot of feasible idea of the New York, the Tri-State Metropolitan Transit System through a system ride, whether it's the subway, the Long Island Railroad, or the Metro North Railroad as well. And also study all kinds of expansive subway service too. But the Interborough Rapid, I say leave it for the commuter rail instead. You can add trackage. There's more to say, but I don't have time. So I appreciate y'all listening to me. I thank y'all very much. You have a blessed, pleasant day. God bless you all.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, and thank you to all the members of the public who contributed. Members of the board, copies of the May Capital Program Committee minutes have been distributed and are available on the website. Are there any changes or comments to the minutes? Mr. Albert.
The first one is actually on the front page. The committee members, it should say S. Solomon, not J. Solomon.
That's today's meeting.
And on page 6, it's referring to the ADA jobs, and it says Livonia Street instead of Livonia Avenue.
Okay.
Otherwise, fine.
All right. Thank you. With those changes, may I have a motion to approve? All in favor? Minutes are approved. Mr. Savio, changes to the work plan?
There are no changes to the work plan. I also note that June reporting on security projects has been provided to committee members in advance of today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Savio. Let me turn it over to Jamie Torres-Springer for the President's update.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to make a special welcome to the new board members that have joined the committee. We look forward to working with you on the delivery of our $55 billion capital program. I know there's a lot of familiar faces here who are very familiar with our program, but we'll look forward to briefing you and work very closely with you on delivery and also the building of an organization at MTA Construction and Development, which is now only a few years old, but centralizes how we deliver the capital program to great advantage, but there's lots more work to do. Just give you a few updates, and I'm going to try to go a little quickly because we're a little bit behind schedule. So last month, we presented to the committee about the progress on our integrated mega projects. Since then, we've reached several significant milestones on several of those projects. first and foremost, the governor and Chair Lieber announced that East Side Access Service will be called Grand Central Madison. The Long Island Railroad, as you know, has put out draft timetables showing a more than 40% increase in service to Manhattan that the project will enable, and those timetables are out for public comment. We are on track to open the project this year as planned, and the longstanding commitment that's been made to that. The other critical piece of delivering the service for Long Island Railroad customers is the completion of Third Track, which is also on schedule for this year. We hit another milestone there with the opening of the new Hyde Park station in the past month. At Penn Station, we released a request for proposals to advance the design for the reconstruction of the station. As we've been very loudly proclaiming to everyone that will listen, time is of the essence to move forward with the reconstruction of Penn Station for the benefit of its 600,000 daily riders. Between the time that we finish East Side Access and move roughly half of Long Island Railroad service into Grand Central, and the time that we bring the New Haven Line service into Penn Station at the end of 2027 through Penn Station Access, that's when we have to get the really disruptive capital work done. And so we are moving forward, bringing the design team on to get things moving, but there's a lot of work to do, and we certainly have the support from the governor's office to do that and from the governor herself. We also reached a major milestone, as was described by some of our public speakers, on our long-term path to achieving full accessibility within the transit system. I want to acknowledge C&D's Tim Mulligan and our Chief Accessibility Officer, Camille Arroyo, General Counsel Paige Graves, and many others were instrumental to this work. They'll be presenting to the board on Wednesday with more details, but I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to congratulate all those who worked to make this settlement possible within MTA Construction and Development, and to continue our recent progress. We're awarding stations at a much faster pace, delivering them on time and on budget, and we're working on innovative new approaches to partner with the private sector and others to continue to deliver on that commitment that we've made. On Wednesday, the board will also hear about our recent board-led efforts to improve our system resiliency and plan for the future in the face of extreme weather. I also wanted to note that we have made it a priority to communicate transparently with our contracting community at C&D. We've, as of this week, added a list of our anticipated 2023 contract advertisements to our website so that the industry can begin planning ahead, which we've heard is critical to making sure that our work gets the right bids, the right proposals and responses that we need in order to move forward, particularly in an environment where we have a lot of capital work coming out from a range of agencies across the country. So this is a big priority for us. Finally, let me just mention an item that will be on the Finance Committee agenda later this afternoon, which is our owner-controlled insurance plan rate, also referred to as OSIP. So very broadly, we have a cost containment strategy underway. In fact, as I said at the beginning, I mean, MTA Construction and Development, in a sense, is a cost containment strategy overall, because it allows us to be more efficient and innovative in the way that we deliver, to do so in a centralized way. And you see a variety of measures that we have underway to contain costs, which we'll describe to you in more detail at a future meeting. But what I wanted to note to you today is that as part of that agenda, we've lined up roughly $60 to $95 million in savings on our next installment of that owner-controlled project insurance. Over the last month, working very closely with our CFO's office, we marketed $3.5 billion worth of projects and received over 2% savings versus current market conditions and versus our prior round of owner-controlled insurance. So you see at the bottom here that what we're describing again is, we have $3.5 billion worth of work that will be subject to this owner-controlled insurance program. In our last owner-controlled insurance program, we were paying in the order of 7 to 8%, and that's really market conditions. But the market has come back to us and offered us that insurance for 5.3%. We attribute that to the results of our project management that delivers safe and reliable projects, that track record that we were able to point to and demonstrate to the industry. We also attribute it to the work we did in partnership with the CFO, where we set up a new insurance broker relationship with incentives and disincentives for the rate delivered, not just paying the broker by the hour. And we also had our actuaries go through and tailor coverage to meet our needs and not pay for extraneous risks. We did that through detailed analysis of our claims history and relied heavily on expertise. All of that is the subject or the product of taking a more business-like approach to the way that we deliver our program, and it yielded these savings. You know, that's speaking to our ADA accessibility efforts. That's at least one more station, if not more than one station, that we got through savings on insurance. So pleased to report on that. Now let me turn to today's program updates. Today's presentations include updates on rolling stock contracts for Long Island Railroad's M9s, New York City Transit's R211s, Metro North's SC42 locomotives, and buses. Rolling stock is managed by various departments at the MTA. The procurements are consolidated in MTA headquarters under Kavesh Iyer. The contracts are managed by staff at each operating agency, who will be reporting to you today. And construction and development oversees the capital funding and provides programmatic oversight, particularly through Steve Plachaki from our contracts division. The common thread is that you have very good project teams who are delivering quality rolling stock for our agencies, despite challenges along the way. One of the things I'd remind the committee is that purchasing rolling stock for our system is not a typical commodities procurement. As the chair says, you don't just run down to the corner deli and buy rolling stock. There's no off-the-shelf product. Fabrication is very complex to meet our high standards of safety and reliability. And to complicate matters, there's a limited supply of United States train, car, and bus manufacturers we can work with. So we're using every contractual and project management means at our disposal to drive schedule while getting a quality product, as you'll hear. As has been the case across projects, COVID and supply chain issues, along with increasingly in the rolling stock area, the challenging issue of skilled labor supply across the country have led to delays. There's no denying it. We've also had to deal with quality issues that have required rework in many cases to meet the very high standards that we hold our rolling stock suppliers to. But the challenges are being overcome and the results show it. Apart from schedule, one of the key measures for rolling stock is mean distance between failure, which is how far the cars, locomotives, or buses can operate before encountering mechanical problems. As you'll hear today, the rolling stock that we're delivering and receiving are not just meeting but exceeding the standards that we set for them. With that, Chair, let me hand it over to Jim Allen from Long Island Railroad to talk through the M9 stock.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Allen, Chief Rolling Stock Programs Officer at the Long Island Railroad. Today I will be briefing you on Long Island's M9 rail car project. Here you can see one of our new M9 cars at the Valley Stream Station. The M9 cars are required to provide passenger service to Grand Central Madison and to allow us to be able to retire our M3 cars, which were manufactured from 1984 to 1985, or 1986 rather, pardon me. Some of the new features in the M9 cars that have been well received by our customers are the closed loop armrest, powered BN door, electrical outlets at each row, improved bathroom amenities including touchless operation with a much improved sliding door, as well as a scratch-proof mirror. CCTV, which is a crime deterrent and incident investigation tool, and car number in the consist being displayed. There we go. The M9 contract was awarded to Kawasaki Railcar located in Yonkers, New York in September 2013. We had an initial base order of 92 cars and exercised an option for an additional 110 cars in July 2017, giving us a total of 202 cars. The combined budget is approximately $734 million. Our current EAC has us very close to the budget with a slight contingency remaining. Late in the day Friday, we accepted another pair of cars, so we have now conditionally accepted 134 cars that are operating daily throughout Long Island's electrified territory. Our requirements for conditional acceptance are stringent. There can be no safety-related issues, any customer-facing and reliability issues must be corrected, and the car must achieve 1,000 miles of failure-free simulated revenue service. Final acceptance would then be granted upon completion of punch list type items such as poorly installed exterior branding decals, which in no way affect car performance. 6 cars are undergoing simulated operational testing on Long Island's property prior to acceptance. 28 cars are in Long Island City at Arch Street being prepared to move to Hillside to commence operational testing. 20 cars are undergoing final assembly at Kawasaki's Yonkers facility, and the last 14 cars are in various stages of manufacture at Kawasaki's facility in Lincoln, Nebraska. The cars are performing extremely well when placed in passenger service. Unfortunately, Kawasaki has incurred delays which have impacted the railroad's ability to accept cars in a timely manner. There have been several workmanship issues that the project team has had to deal with throughout the acceptance process. Additionally, the railroad has identified defects and failures that have occurred during testing that must be corrected before the railroad will accept the car. Kawasaki has also had difficulty attracting and retaining qualified, skilled workers in Lincoln due to a very low unemployment rate in the area. COVID and global supply chain issues have also negatively impacted the project and caused further delays to the car. Long Island and MTA are currently engaged in discussions with Kawasaki's senior management to address delays associated with the project. As I mentioned, the project's acceptance schedule has been impacted by a number of issues which have made the project a true challenge. Unfortunately, we have found that Kawasaki requires constant oversight and supervision of their work by the railroad. As a result, the M9 project team continues to perform rigorous oversight of all of Kawasaki's operations, whether it be manufacturing, assembly, or testing. Our mandate is not to accept a car until it fully meets the requirements of the contract, has passed simulated operational testing, is determined by the project team to be safe, reliable, and is ready to provide our customers the quality product that they deserve. Notwithstanding the delays encountered on the project, as a direct result of the project's team's extraordinary efforts, the M9 car mean distance between failure exceeds the contract requirement by over 70%, and this number should continue to increase as modifications are implemented. The 150,000-mile contract requirement is already an aggressive number, and the M9 car is far exceeding that. We will continue to hold Kawasaki accountable for all workmanship issues and require all repairs and modifications to be made prior to each car receiving final acceptance. Additionally, the M9 project team frequently shares lessons learned with NYCT's R211 program office to prevent similar issues from occurring on their project, which follows the M9 at Kawasaki. Kawasaki is also responsible for all costs associated with these repairs. We are also engaged in discussions with our legal team to exercise our rights in the contract while progressing the work. This slide shows the manufacturing process at Kawasaki's facility in Lincoln, Nebraska. These are very, very complex projects involving multiple electronic systems from many different suppliers located around the world. They must all work together, be integrated, and operate flawlessly. The picture on the left shows the massive amount of wiring that gets installed in the car, each with its own unique requirement and purpose. On the right is the last M9 car shell making its way through the production line at Lincoln on its way to New York. This is a picture of the final assembly area at Kawasaki's facility in Yonkers, New York. There is a significant New York State content requirement in the contract that Kawasaki has met. The items listed on the left are some of the work that is performed in Yonkers to achieve the New York State content requirement. This concludes my presentation. We'll now hear from Joe DeVito from the IEC, and after which I would be happy to take any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time. The IEC report on the Long Island Railroad M9 contract begins on page 22 of your committee book. Overall, the project remains on budget, but has experienced significant delays, as you've heard, due to Kawasaki's inability to control initial quality, overcome supply chain issues, and maintain a stable, qualified workforce before and during the COVID-19 pandemic. The project team forecasts completing the conditional acceptance by September of 2023 for a total project delay of 33 months from the original contract date. Recently, Kawasaki's failure to meet acceptance criteria resulted in a 3-month pause to acceptance while they corrected deficiencies in their workmanship. To meet the September 2023 date, a production rate which has averaged 4 cars per month must increase to 5 cars per month for the final 68 vehicles. In the opinion of the IEC, an average rate of 5 cars per month is achievable, providing Kawasaki can overcome part shortages and achieve workforce stability. With regard to the budget, the project budget and estimated completion remain unchanged at $733.6 million. However, based on our review of expenditures, contingency, change orders, delay costs, and the risk on the remaining work, the IEC forecasts that an estimate completion could exceed the budget by up to $9.6 million, or 1.3%. And this is revised downward from what you see in the book. Regarding quality and reliability, it's certainly good news to hear that the cars have achieved over 250,000-mile mean distance between failure rate, more than 100,000 miles greater than required, and the IEC fully agrees with the Long Island strategy of demanding quality workmanship from the car builder ahead of acceptance that meets or exceeds the level of quality and reliability expected by the customers and defined in the contract documents. And that concludes my remarks on the M9.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? Ms. Mihalcis?
How confident are we that Kawasaki is going to meet the September 23 deadline?
I think that's absolutely achievable. You know, over the course of the last couple of years, we have averaged 4 cars a month. But the product that's coming through because of our initiatives, when we find a problem, we run it back up the production line. So if we find something during testing, it goes to Arch Street, it gets implemented there. It goes back to Yonkers, implemented there, and back to Lincoln and implemented there. So my hope and I'm encouraged that the cars that are coming out of Lincoln will be a better product than what we saw. So long-winded answer, yes, September 2023 for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Albert?
Is that September 2023 day, that's just delivery of the cars, that's not delivery and testing of the cars, correct?
That would be acceptance. So it's
Acceptance.
delivery, the 1,000-mile simulated operation test and acceptance. We track Kawasaki to an acceptance date.
Is that a conditional acceptance or the final acceptance?
It would be a conditional acceptance.
Okay.
We accept with open items. The contract allows for that, and it lets us put them into revenue service. Obviously, no safety issues or customer.
I mean, this is the equivalent in rolling stock of punch list, things that you can fix in an organized way, but it gives the public the benefit of having the cars operating in service. It's important to underscore this because I think mistakenly the state controller actually criticized the team for doing conditional acceptances. The truth is that's the right thing to do. You put the car into service, and then you have an organized strategy for fixing the things that are not safety or operationally sensitive. Mr. Brown.
Yeah, regarding the supply chain issues, this is an interesting orchestration between, national content and the reality of global production. And Kawasaki having a plant here and having a plant in where is it in Japan, where they had Kobe and in Lincoln. I mean, it's a long supply chain there. So where is the particular constipation occurring? Is it from the often cited printed circuit board things? You have trouble getting these little circuits in, or is it from steel, or is it? Because quite a bit of the stuff is made in Japan or Asia and transferred for assembly in Lincoln. So it's like I said, it's a balance that I'm not quite sure where we end up on, but where is precisely, as much as you can articulate, the constipation?
Well, while supply chain was a problem, the biggest problem was the workmanship issues in Lincoln, which were driven by high turnover, low unemployment, and unwillingness to work in a facility out there. The people that would work, they would show up for a week and then they'd disappear. So that started a real systemic problem at Lincoln, and that made its way all the way through to the test site. You can test the car while it's sitting in the plant. All the lights turn green. You bring the car to Long Island and we run it on the property and you bang the thing around and all of a sudden you get failures and then all the lights turn red, and then you try and find out why. Supply chain, an example. Kawasaki, for whatever reason, they're missing something to the tune of 2,000 parts to finish the last 18 cars. So they've had to go out and order those parts. That's an immediate problem because not only is it Japan, it's these cars, what I call the United Nations of car. It's almost 15 different countries the parts come from. So that's a challenge for them now, and that hopefully doesn't jeopardize the September 2023 date, but it's definitely a concern.
Yeah, it's kind of shocking. You got recruitment or retention problems at a non-union facility in the middle of the country.
Imagine that.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, and probably helps that has literally, Nebraska has the lowest unemployment rate in the United States by a lot. Any other questions before we move on to the next presentation? I think you can see the caliber of the project management that we've been getting from this team, so credit to you guys. One of the things that we've been talking about, just to put a point on it, is this is no different than a construction project fundamentally. You have to project manage the hell out of it from day one, and that means staying on top of the contractor. How is your assembly line? Where? Show me your, show me all your acquisition of your parts. Show me how your warehouse is operating. The same kind of super oversight that a good construction project gets, these projects have to get. I think we're getting it from our team, but it's something as we evolve the new rolling stock management that we have talked about a lot. Okay, onward. Please, Mr. Brown.
In that regard, congratulations on the MDBF. You keep growing the MDBF in all these different ways, and regardless of how long it takes you to get the product
Thank
there.
you. It's
you're doing
absolutely
very
a
well.
testament to the project team. I mean, the guys are relentless. It really is, and their heart's in the right place, and they bleed these cars, and it's something that they should all be
All right,
thankful
so
for.
before we celebrate, let's move on to the 211s.
And I knock on wood as Rob Free always does.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sue Cole. I'm the VP and CMO for Car Equipment at New York City Transit. Today, I'll be presenting our subway car program. Our overall goal is to maintain cars in a state of good repair and to ensure a safe and reliable fleet. This is achieved through regular maintenance programs and replacement of subway cars upon the end of their useful life. We also support signal system modernization. This requires installation of communications equipment directly on our subway cars. New subway cars must be designed to accommodate the latest signal technology and retrofit of existing cars to accommodate CBTC equipment. The R211 program supports these goals by replacing the 40-plus-year-old R46s with CBTC-equipped cars to enable CBTC expansion on the B division, including the 8th Avenue A, C, and E lines. The R211s will also be replacing the Staten Island Railway R44 cars, which are close to 50 years old. This chart illustrates how our new Millennium fleet is outperforming our legacy fleet by 2.5 times. As you can see, the new cars are close to 250,000 MDBF compared to less than 100,000 MDBF on the older cars. I want to emphasize that we want to continue this trend with the R211s by staying on top of the issues and working closely with the car builder in order to accept good quality cars. The R211 contract was awarded to Kawasaki in February 2018 for up to 1,612 cars for New York City Transit and Staten Island Railway. And here I'd like to add that in discussions with Long Island Railroad, we recognize the hard work that Railroad did to bring the quality of the M9s to an acceptable level. We will benefit from their experience and utilize their lessons learned to avoid quality issues. Continue with the overview. The base order contract is for 535 cars, and the budget is $1.75 billion. This consists of 440 R211A cars. These are closed-end cars. 75 Staten Island Railway cars, and 20 open gangway test cars, which makes up 2 test trains. Car Equipment is actively managing the R211 program to minimize increases to the EAC or estimate at completion. I'll discuss some of our management efforts later in my presentation. We do recognize that the cars are late, as you will see in the next slides. But this is early in the contract, and we still have opportunities to identify where we can recover the schedule. This slide tells the story of the delays at various milestones in the contract. The lateness ranges between 12 and 19 months. Kawasaki has already submitted requests for excusable delays, which are under review by our legal, procurement, and project team. I would like to point out that the R211A pilots are performing well and look to complete the qualification tests on time. With that said, we are looking to hold the schedule and are continuing to work hard to pull the schedule in. The project management team is actively working with Kawasaki to mitigate ongoing schedule challenges. We receive and review weekly production and workforce updates from Kawasaki. As you have heard from Jim, and the workforce in Lincoln, Nebraska is still a problem for Kawasaki, as the average turnover rate is 45 workers a month. This means there's always some level of learning curve. There are regular reviews of the schedule and discussions with Kawasaki on the oversight of suppliers. We are working with Kawasaki to qualify alternate sources to mitigate supply chain issues. As of today, we are actively qualifying 13 components with a second supplier. Kawasaki has also told us that there may be some cases where their sub-suppliers will need to qualify a third source. NYCT and our consultants are on site in Lincoln and their suppliers to resolve open issues in order to minimize delays. We are also supporting Kawasaki's qualification tests at New York City Transit. We are working multiple shifts and weekends when required. Upcoming steps. Qualification testing and implementation field modifications on the R211A pilot cars will continue. Qualification testing and evaluation of the open gangway test trains will initiate, as well as qualification testing at New York City Transit and then at Staten Island Railway for the R211S cars. Option 1 will be executed by the end of the year, at the latest the first quarter of 2023, for a total of 640 cars. We're confident in exercising this option based on our ability to continue our rigorous oversight of Kawasaki. And finally, based on the late delivery of the R211 cars, MTA and C&D is developing alternate plans for the 8th Avenue CBTC cutover. I'll turn it over to President Tori Springer to explain or discuss these plans.
It certainly is a risk related to the implementation of CBTC on 8th Avenue. We have a mitigation plan. In short, we were planning to cut over or implement CBTC on the 8th Avenue line, moving from north to south, covering both the A and the C and the E. Given the expected late arrival of the R211s, we'll be doing the local tracks first because we're able to do it for the current C trains. The E trains are already CBTC equipped through the Queens Boulevard Line West program, and then we'll move to the express implementation after we're done with the local. Now, we need to be realistic. We have, as we would say in our program, zero float. Related to the cars, we have a completion date of January 2025, which is the delivery date currently projected for the R211s. So if everything stays on track, we can hit that substantial completion date, but otherwise, realistically, it will delay the completion of CBTC. I think Sue just might have a couple more statements to make, and then we'll get to questions. Or were you done, Sue? I'm sorry.
Okay. We continue to the next slides. These are really photographs of the various types of cars that we have, and the condition they're in currently. The first slide is the R211 pilot trains in the shop and on the test track. And the next slide is the exterior and interior of the open gangway in Lincoln, Nebraska. And on this slide, the photos on the left is the cab, and on the right is the passenger area of the R211A production cars. You can see the amount of wiring that goes in on every car. Just like Long Island Railroad, we will closely monitor the workmanship. And this last slide, these are the photos of the Staten Island Railway cars in Lincoln, Nebraska. This concludes my presentation. I'll answer questions following remarks from the IEC. Joe?
Okay, thank you. The IEC report on the R211 contract begins on page 39 of your committee book. Overall, the R211 project remains on budget, but has experienced significant delay to car delivery. Regarding the schedule, the forecast delivery of all R211 vehicles has moved from July 2023 to January 25, as you just heard, an 18-month delay due to workmanship and technical issues discovered during testing, as well as COVID-related impact. Our schedule analysis shows an average production rate of 20 cars per month is required to meet this delivery schedule. It is the IEC's opinion that this schedule is aggressive, that meeting this production rate will be challenging, and that there is some risk of a further delay to the project of up to 9 months. We have observed the R211 project team has directed Kawasaki to undertake certain actions which are outlined in our report and are intended to assist the car builder in achieving their stated production levels while delivering a high-quality car for acceptance. While yet unproven, the IEC would like to acknowledge the project's efforts in this regard. Regarding the budget, the project budget and EAC remain unchanged at $1.75 billion, as you heard. The IEC has reviewed expenditures, change orders, contingency, remaining work and delay costs, and forecast that the EAC could exceed the current budget by up to $29 million or 1.7 million percent, $29 million or 1.7%, and this is revised downward from what is written in the report in our book. Lastly, the IEC remains concerned with the dependency on the 8th Avenue CBTC project testing schedule on the delivery of the R211A fleet, originally planned to begin in February 2024. To address this coordination issue, New York City Transit and C&D continue to meet to advance the mitigation plan, which would require 300 cars be made available and allow for testing to begin in August of 24. And this concludes my remarks on the R211 project.
Okay. Andrew.
The 8th Avenue CBTC project is 59th Street to High Street, or all the way?
Yes, yes,
It is High Street.
It's High Street.
Okay, and are the R179 CBTC ready?
Yes. They are, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's how we're able to mitigate.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment? Mr. Brown.
I really got a question for Jim. You said it was attrition rate of 45. Did you say 45 people a month out of Lincoln? Was it a month or a year?
Month.
A month?
Yeah.
How many? What's the universe? I mean, is that all hourly employees or?
We're just talking about the workers that are actually working on the cars.
Yeah, it's hourly employees, so production workers.
Correct.
And so that's out of a universe of how many employees?
Of about 430.
So you're losing. Now wait a minute.
10%. But they are gaining. It's
No, 10% a month.
Yeah, they
10% a month.
Yeah, that's why they're having a lot of problems.
Well,
They gain. They interview and hire people, and right now, last month they lost about 50, but they have 30 in the pipeline going into the workforce. So that's why I'm saying there's always a learning curve.
Question, Mr. Zuckerman.
So, Janet, it's really for you, maybe for Jamie. What would you like, if anything, for this committee to do? I mean, you've obviously shared this with us. You obviously knew this information. Maybe we even knew it ourselves and we haven't confronted it. Is there anything you'd like us to do?
Like, what's our recourse? Let me just add to that. Like, do we call Kawasaki? Like, tell me.
Well, we not to get legalistic about it,
Right.
but we do have liquidated damages
Okay.
provisions. There has been legalistic dialogue about those very provisions. We have, pages sitting right there. I'm happy to, I don't think this is the right forum to get into the legal discussion, but there is a meaningful negotiation with a legal aspect to it that includes Kawasaki's performance and their failures to perform ongoing. I think the important thing is for the board to see to be aware of what's going on, and also to see the actions that are being taken to mitigate some of the consequences of the production failures that we're seeing.
And Jim, I believe you when you say we're going to meet the 23 deadline for the Long Island Railroad cars, but after hearing what's going on with these cars, it just the whole thing is in question, right? It's like a big mishmash
Yeah,
over
it
there.
is. And just so everybody's aware, the point that was made at the outset, which is the universe of competent, qualified, remember we qualify car builders, that are in the United States, we're down to 2 right now. So, right, so we're all very mindful of that, of some of those consequences. And what we were trying to do is to help Kawasaki get back on the straight and narrow, to resolve our business and legal issues, to improve the. I mean, Jamie, you're running this, but I'm just summarizing it broadly, to optimize the delivery dates, because what we're interested in is making sure the public gets the benefit of the bargain as quickly as possible, but also to take the opportunity to try to fix for future procurements some of these project management / production issues. That's our strategy as I understand it right now, but it does not rule out exercise of legal options. We've been very clear with Kawasaki on that. So that's, now the good news part of the meeting. No, the bad news for the moment is over. What is next if we have no further questions about this?
I think the next presentation is Joseph Reynolds on the locomotives for Metro North.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, good afternoon. I'm Joseph Reynolds. I'm the Senior Director of Rolling Stock Delivery and Integration for Metro North, and I will be discussing the locomotive contract. The key goal of the project is the dual mode locos contract, replace the P32s that have reached the end of life. The contract was awarded to Siemens and is in full compliance with Buy America requirements. The locomotive will be built in the United States, and more precisely in Sacramento, California. We have completed the second stage of our locomotive design process, and we are on schedule with the overall completion of the design due date. Now, the trifecta of parts obsolescence, maintainability costs, and the poor reliability of the P32s forced the decision of replacing the locomotives at the expense of some other rolling stock programs. Now, the SC42 is a greener locomotive. The use of diesel exhaust fluid reduces the hazardous exhausts and significantly lessens the harmful emissions, and the numbers on the slide pretty much speak for themselves. These emission reductions allow us to be in compliance with EPA Tier 4 requirements. Furthermore, we are designing the locomotives to maximize, to the greatest extent possible, the use of the electric mode, which in turn will use less fuel and lower the overall operating costs. Other key features are the ability to operate at a higher speed, reduce our sound emission by being much quieter, and improve overall reliability of the locomotives. Now, the total number of locomotives is 27 under, and under this contract, other agencies can exercise the configuration that meet their needs. We are on budget, as we are in line with the program milestone schedules, and the unit price of the locomotive, based on the contract that we have with Siemens, is about $12.4 million. Now, thank you. So we are on schedule with the original contract milestones, and here are some of the key dates. The most important on the schedule that are shown here is that the first locomotive will be delivered in 2025, and the last locomotive will be delivered in 2027, 2 years later. Now, lessons learned from a previous program is that it is important to keep the program team engaged and on point. We achieved this by having various meetings to show in this slide how to quickly discuss issues and provide resolutions. I would like to note that these meetings are tailored to this particular stage of the contract or of the project, and they will be modified as the program progresses. Thank you. If there are any questions?
Jamie Barbas.
I just have a comment. So I'm sure that there were really probably good things in the contract with Kawasaki, as Chairman Jano referred to. If there are any improvements in future contracts with respect to LDs, warranty clauses, all those things that may be worked out but can be improved too, because you could always be more innovative in the future contracts. I'm sure legal is looking at that. Even force majeure in today's climate, having that really tight so it's not an excuse for anything that's related to COVID going forward.
I'm going to recognize Mr. Pochacki on that issue.
Yeah, in regard to that, the agencies have been speaking about how we've improved contracts over the years, and the R211 contract is a perfect example. There we've gotten extended warranties, increased MDBF, as well as increased the liquidated damages provisions in the contract in order to attend to these things. We have a tendency to take a look at past contracts, have the lessons learned, as you've seen and heard throughout the presentations, and certainly all the new contracts take that into consideration.
Thank you.
Interesting presentation. I just saw one thing here on page 46, that the design is not going to be completed till the end in the fourth quarter of this year. I mean, the engines are already being produced. Obviously, ours are different because they have dual mode capability, but this design, Amtrak has been using them for a couple of years already. So why does it take to the fourth quarter to get it done?
Because these locomotives will have to comply with our operational need. It's a dual mode, it's not just a single mode locomotive.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah, and it's the collector assembly is lower running versus the high running. So the emergency exits are different. So the distribution of the electrical system on the locomotive is a challenge for weight distribution, as well as the dual mode design in itself.
Sure.
So it is progressing very expeditiously, but nevertheless, we will be completed by the end of this year.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. No IEC report on that, but we have now turned to Daniel Cardoza for an update on the buses.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Daniel Cardoza. I am the Acting Chief Maintenance Officer for MTA Regional Bus Operations, and I will provide an update on the various projects for our bus fleet. I'll begin with an overview of our current bus fleet and fleet age, and then go over the bus procurements in the current and prior capital programs. Our existing bus fleet consists of approximately 5,800 buses spread throughout our 28 bus depots citywide. Currently, our average age fleet is 7.89 years. Given the 12-year useful life, the ideal average fleet age is 6 years. Therefore, we have program purchases to deliver over 950 buses to MTA Bus from now through 2025. This represents almost 3/4 of the MTA Bus fleet, all of which will then be less than 4 years old, thus bringing us closer to the 6-year ideal average fleet age. And of course, the customers benefit with new state-of-the-art amenities on buses. All of the contracts for the 1,776 buses funded in the 2015 to 2019 capital program have been awarded. To date, 89% of the buses have been accepted for revenue service. By the end of 2022, we expect the remaining 131 buses from in-production contracts to be delivered, bringing that number up to 96%. For the 2020 to 2024 capital program, 7 contracts have been awarded for a total of 706 buses, or 29% of the program total. Of those, 5 are in production and 2 are currently in pre-production. In addition to our current contracts, the capital program includes upcoming contracts for over 1,200 buses. We are pleased to announce that we have made a significant step towards electrifying our fleet, as we currently are in negotiations with Nova Bus to purchase 5 battery electric buses, and we plan to solicit 470 battery electric buses by the end of this year, of which 90 will be articulated. This is by far our largest battery electric purchase to date. Other bus purchases in this program include the latest EPA standards and the best available technology for clean diesel engine buses and compressed natural gas buses. All contracts are on budget, but due to COVID, we have had scheduled delays. We have and continue to work closely with each bus manufacturer to help mitigate issues and delays. Due to the pandemic, all 3 bus manufacturers experienced labor shortages and absenteeism, resulting in production rate slowdowns. Additionally, supply chain issues delayed the delivery of some components to the plants, which then delayed the assembly of the vehicles. The hybrid buses were purchased with new electrified systems to help bridge the gap to battery electric buses. Some of the systems are electric doors, electric HVAC system, electric steering, and electric air compressor. As with any new technology, there are risks associated. We have experienced many infancy failures and continue to hold vendors accountable for engineering solutions and campaigns to achieve long-term reliability. The lessons learned will be used to increase quality as we prepare to purchase battery electric buses. Despite the manufacturers claiming force majeure, we continue to assess liquidated damages as the manufacturers work through their engineering solutions and schedule delays. As I mentioned, the hybrid buses were purchased with some new electrified systems that experienced some infancy failures. In working with the bus manufacturers on reliability issues, we are seeing a steady increase in our MDBF. Nova's MDBF went from 2,800 to over 4,000 miles in the last 90 days, an increase of 31%. And New Flyer increased from 4,900 to 5,500 miles in the last 90 days, an increase of 11%. All buses come equipped with safety measures for both our passengers and bus operators, as well as state-of-the-art amenities. For example, our advanced camera systems offer interior and exterior bus views for added safety and security. The pedestrian turn warning system alerts pedestrians that the bus is turning. And to ensure added protection for our bus operators, barriers have been enhanced. In addition, we are working to improve on-route bus speeds through expanding our automatic bus lane enforcement and transit signal priority programs. Additional details regarding these features are included in the appendix in your book. This concludes the bus fleet presentation. I'll take any questions following Joe's comments.
Thank you. The Independent Engineers Report on New York City Transit and MTA bus contracts. This begins on page 73 of your committee book. There are 11 active bus contracts for 1,358 vehicles, totaling $1.1 billion. 3 contracts for 218 buses were recently awarded for $187 million, and that was since our last report. Overall, the IEC finds all projects are forecasted to be complete within the current budgets and EAC. Regarding schedule, since our last report, some contracts have experienced adjustments of up to 11 months due to supply chain issues, COVID impacts, as well as technical issues such as doors, batteries, and software, as you just heard. Department of Bus has directed the vendors to identify root causes to technical issues, and together they're working to develop and implement solutions as swiftly as possible. Bus manufacturers have proposed revised delivery schedules for the delayed contracts, which are under review by the Department of Bus, to ensure they're in line with delivery expectations and that outstanding risks are addressed while still achieving the Department of Bus high-quality standards. The IEC concurs with the strategy being used. However, risks remain and there's potential for further delay as COVID continues to impact equipment manufacturers' plant performance and their ability to achieve timely bus delivery. Lastly, the IEC is encouraged that the Department of Bus released an RFP with a phased implementation approach to conduct an analysis for the purpose of assessing the battery electric bus program and the Department of Bus's transition to a zero-emissions fleet. And the award of this phase one of this contract is imminent. And this concludes our remarks on bus.
Any other comments, questions? We're trying to catch some time. But
I know you're trying to catch some time. That's why I'm stalling here. You know, this agency was substantially beaten up in the press a couple years ago, particularly this area with regard to world comparables, world comps. The articles seem to be directed at construction and our mega projects more than anything else. But and you know, I take what you said earlier. You can't go to the bodega and buy these things. But to what extent do our rolling stock procurements, both the bus and the rail fleet, to what extent do they hew to world comparables? To what extent are we an exceptional case, or is it nothing at all compared to the construction issues?
I'll address a portion of that. I'll say in the subway area in particular, we're rather unique. You know, we've heard the word and terms from certainly from the manufacturers, like the snowflake approach. Each one is particularly individual. It's much different than what you see out there in other areas. We have very tight tunnels. We have very significant turning radiuses on our tracks, and a lot of those type of issues create limitations. We do leverage existing manufacturers and their wherewithal in being able to comport with Buy America, as we use certainly on the federal side. We use on the train side, we use federal funds, and a lot of that technology has to transfer its way over to the state. So we do see the repeat use of major sub-suppliers in the builds of outfits, as also in qualifying those. We have an open door policy. We are constantly waiving new manufacturers in the extent to which they want to do business here. We dispel that whole notion that we were, we like who we like. We really done away with that by qualifying additional manufacturers and open the door, whether it be on doors, HVAC, things of that nature.
Okay, but I think the point is, and let's do a follow-up. Price-wise, how do we compare, right, to other comps? Number one. Number two, to Mr. Brown's question, we are, it has been one of the initiatives in the C&D era to try to, quote unquote, decustomize, to move, to try wherever possible to kind of get rid of things where we are outliers because of design requirements or specs or otherwise. I think that under the leadership of some of the people you have here, that has been happening over time. But there's some, like literally the configuration issues that Steve just alluded to that limit how much we can decustomize. But let's do a follow-up because time is short, to the committee on this issue of how are we doing comparatively and the decustomization effort, if that's okay.
And just one other issue. We have been requiring in all the contracts the use and maximization of off-the-shelf products, particularly for consumables.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the rolling stock presentation. And Chair, we'll just move through procurements. I'll ask Steve Plachocki to present. And Steve, just ask you to do this very quickly because we're running quite far behind, so we have some catching up to do.
Good afternoon. Construction and Development has one action being brought to the Capital Committee this month. The action requests the ratification of a modification to the contract for the implementation of flood mitigation measures at 3 bus depots in the boroughs of Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island with T. Moriarty and Summit, Inc. The modification is for a redesigned flood roller gate at 41st Street entrance to the Michael J. Quill Bus Depot in the amount of $1,235,000. This modification is fully described in detail in the staff summary contained in your committee books, and I submit the procurement for your action and consideration and vote. Thank you.
Second. All in favor? Any opposition? The motion carries. I think at this point we can move to an adjournment, correct? Okay. Any motion? Second. The meeting is adjourned.